guys, this is Richard, and welcome to our week 7 free workshop during this quarantine time. So, if you are new to our channel, welcome to RJ Avenue. For the last 7 weeks, including today, we have been hosting free workshops with free digifiles out of some of our favorite sets or maybe brand new sets altogether to be able to bring you guys inspiration and the opportunity to bring paper to life from wherever you might be working. So most of you guys are at home, but some of you guys might be stuck in different areas in quarantine, and so hopefully we bring a little bit of inspiration to just inspire you to want to create or make or maybe even add it to that to-do list of projects that you want to try once you're feeling up to it. The last few weeks, I've been kind of focusing on mini books. It's one of my original passions when it came to paper crafting. But I kind of began this path of just making cards and making cards and making cards. But I've reconnected with my love for creating mini books, and therefore the last few weeks have been nothing but mini books. So I hope you're excited about the opportunity to bring a mini book to life, and that you checked out the previous mini books that we've already shared. Hopefully you have already recreated them, had fun making them, and are excited to dive into this one. Now, this one uses quite a bit of cardstock. So let's go ahead and switch over to that top view so that we can actually see the full book. Let me make sure I have it lined up here so that I know where I'm at. All right, so it is actually an A2 size card envelope or envela-box type project. So I made it to fit in A2 size in the event that you wanted to actually send a card in the mail. But this card, of course, comes with a little bit extra bells and whistles because it is a complete adventure under the sea. Now, typically, if you're new to our channel, when I use one of our original sets for the project, I give away a couple of digis from it, and I make the rest of the set available at a discount price in case you are interested in the whole set. But you're always welcome to use any images you might already have, any stamp sets you might already have. This is, of course, what I'm using because obviously it's my product and it's something that I want to be able to bring to life a little differently. So you should have received the Adventure Awaits Week 7 giveaway, which is the octopus and the title to create our cover. So you'll see that on the cover. We did stamp on an acetate sheet and used alcohol markers to be able to bring that to life. And we'll get to that here in a minute. But you should have received these 2 digifiles for you to be able to create the project with. Now, you're always welcome to turn it into whatever book you prefer. I love the idea of the Adventure Awaits mini book. And this is a total set of 10 stamps, and it's quite large. It's one of our favorites. It's one of our original stamps. It has Birthday Wishes, Adventure Awaits, Let's Cast Away, and then a different version of Let's Get Away. So Let's Get Away and Let's Cast Away. So either one, super fun. I also use 2 background stamps. Wind Waves is one of them. Super gorgeous. And burlap print, which are also, I believe, mentioned in the list of stamps and images that I am using. So don't miss out on those. This particular week, which is the week of May 4th, we're in May right now. So if you're watching this video in May, for every $50 that you purchase through RG Avenue, you have the opportunity to receive this entire Digi Stay Magical for free. So don't miss out on that if you are going to go take advantage of some of these sales on the shop, so that you can add those to your cart. So let's go ahead and take a view at our book. So we do create a belly band for it because I love mini books with a belly band. You could also do a loopy clasp type thing, but you'll notice that the way we wanted to bring this project to life was to simply add this opening to it, which gives us the opportunity to journal. So we've already got a little bit of journaling on here. High tides, Good Vibes with Ohana. This is our actual trip to Hawaii last year, capturing some highlights from our Hawaii family adventure. So you can kind of see we added some space for journaling in this space. Then the book opens up. So you can obviously recreate any which way you want. You can leave this space open for more photographs, for more journaling. So here we've got some of the photographs from our trip. So this is a great little, almost like a postcard type project to send maybe to a family member who did not attend the trip, and you just kind of want to take them along with you this way. And so I added a little envelope here. This is just a little 3x3 envelope. It does fit a full A2 size. So if you wanted to do that instead, you can do that. It leaves me the space for more photographs that I want to share with family, if I want to send that over, or maybe I just want to keep it for myself. We added some journaling to the back of those photos so that we remember exactly how it felt to be there during that time. And that is what we're creating today. Any questions, guys? All right, guys. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Feel free to send us your questions if you have any along the way. There's quite a bit of work to do here, and we typically don't have anything pre-cut for classes like this. We start from scratch, and because we have a lot of brand new crafters, and we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So I do have quite a bit of cardstock that I'm going to be using. I might not use them all, but for the most part, most of them will be used. And I do have a pretty thick sheet of acetate, which I will be needing for my stamping and my coloring. So let me zoom out just a little bit here. To get a wider viewpoint. And first thing is first, we are going to create. First, let's go ahead and do a little bit of the stamping because we need some time to dry on the acetate sheet. We're actually going to be using our black taffy ink. If you did not know that our black taffy ink is designed for you to be able to stamp on multiple surfaces as well as use with alcohol markers. So we're going to go ahead and bring our acetate sheet in. And we are going to start stamping. You know, what might be helpful is if I'm bringing in a white sheet so that you can actually see the stamping. How's everybody doing today?
Everyone says hi. They're excited for the book. Patricia's on. Lori Hewlett. Ronnie Jantz. Bernice Taylor. Linda Gorman.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us today. I'm glad that you're excited for the book. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to ink this up using our black taffy. So
Cinnamon Hawks ask, can you purchase the acetate sheet?
We
From
don't sell the acetate sheets, but you can get them at like an Office Max or like Staples, some sort of office supply stores. You can use the covers of like the the folders. They sell them on their own, and so they're just the same for the most part. So we're gonna go ahead and ink that up again. Perfect. So I'm going to move these guys out. We will bring in actually another fish here. Another starfish as well. Our octopus. Seahorse.
Like all of them.
All of them. We're going to use all of these guys. And try not to grab where you've originally stamped, mainly because it is a fresh stamp and we are stamping on an acetate sheet. So we are going to need to heat set this a little bit. But I like to let it dry on its own for a little bit before I go back in to heat set it.
Otherwise, like smudge or something, huh?
Yeah, otherwise it's just going to smear a little bit.
Smear.
But we don't want it
Get messy.
to do that. I remember back in the day when we didn't have stamp positioners. Oh my gosh, this was the hardest thing to do.
Got to eyeball everything.
No,
Positioners.
to stamp, it was too hard to do because see, I'll show you. I'll show you a little old school for you youngsters out there.
Oh, school.
All right, beautiful. They all look prettiness. Perfect. Ready for us to create. Now, back when I was little, I used to have to walk to school. No, I'm just kidding. I don't even have it around. So back when we were little, we used to have to stamp with a StazOn ink. It's called still, but to do this without having to smudge it. See, it's slippery. So it's never that bad, for the record.
But that's where it goes.
But that's what happens is it's not solid like paper, so you have to just kind of like kiss it, and even then you're like bloody murder. So yeah, that was back in the day without this guy. Now we have the luxury of even stamping it twice. Times have changed.
Maybe one day this thing will be obsolete, huh?
I don't know. This was like the greatest invention on earth. Now same thing happens with like shrink plastic. When you stamp on shrink plastic, it gets a little slippery and shrink. Have you not shrink plasticked?
No. What is that?
Oh, it's plastic that shrinks.
Why
So
does
you
it shrink?
stamp
For
it
shrinky things?
for shrinky dinks.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
All right, we will be using our stamps again, just not for the acetate. And the reason why I wanted to get that out of the way is because I like it to sit for a while before I work on it. I wanted to kind of dry on its own a little bit before I go in there and heat set that. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into our measurements here. So we're gonna need a sheet of tangy gum or whatever color you are working with, okay? So it's a full sheet of tangy gum. And we'll just need our scoring tool. Yeah, I just want to hit another one. All right, guys, are we ready for some measurements?
Let's do it.
So let's first start by scoring at 3/4 of an inch. We then want to score at 1 1/4. We then want to score at 7 1/4. And then we want to score at 7 3/4. This is, of course, with your paper going vertically. Okay? Those measurements again, 3/4 of an inch, 1 1/4, 7 1/4, 7 3/4. Now, if you like, you can always score it front and back. I typically like to do that mainly because our cardstock is so thick. So to help it along the way, I score the front and the back. And this prevents it from cracking because our cardstock is so very thick. Okay. So front and back scored. Now we're going to bring this horizontally. And we want to score at 2 inches. Two and a half. Seven and 1/8. I know I hate those, but it's important. And then 7 3/4. Alrighty. And again, if you wanted to do front and back, here we go. All right, so now we want to fold our score lines. If you want to, you can do a light spritzing of water to help the cardstock be more pliable, okay, so that you're like not fighting with your score lines, because they're not the widest score lines, and you also want to make it easier on your folds. Just a light spritzing of water will do it. Here with me in the studio, I've got David, my son,
Hey guys.
working the computers, and I've got Michelle
Hi guys.
helping out with communication with you guys. Miss G had to go run an errand with her mother, but she will probably join us shortly as well for a little bit. All right, so this is the foundation of our project. Now you'll notice that the bottom part is a little bit wider than the top part, and that's okay. I did it it's by design because I add that extra flap over, and then I just need it to close. So it sits a little bit better, and it just creates the sturdiness that we need for our paper to hold. Okay.
Clever.
So this is all we need. That's it. That is the whole book in a nutshell. That's all the scoring. That's all the pieces. Thanks for watching. Just kidding. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back and we're going to trim off our sides. Okay, so top to second score line. Top to second score line. Same thing here. Top to the second score line. Top to second score line. You can use a paper trimmer if you prefer. I don't mind the scissor cut. And then we're going to remove those pieces. Got it? What I like to do is I like to come in and I like to create a little notch on those two ends to that first score line. So you should have something that looks like this. Are we ready to move on? Or does anybody have questions on this part? If anything, this would be the most confusing part of all. But I made the measurements super simple. So that anybody can recreate this project. So I'm actually going to cut out several pieces of paper now. And I just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Get it? On the same page.
On the same page.
I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer because now what I need is I need 4 pieces that are 5.5 by 4.5 of the same color cardstock. So I'm going to use some more Tangy gum to create those side pages. So I want 5.5 by 4.5. Now, unfortunately, it leaves me with just a smaller piece here. So I can only get 2 out of my sheet. But I need 2 of them. I need 4 of them altogether. And these are great for a different project, and we might need some here anyway. So we need 4 of these that are 4.5 by 5.5. Those are going to be the side pages of our book.
Rosebud says, hello, everyone. Says they're late. And then Andrea Mills also says, hello, can't wait to rewatch from the beginning. Excited about this project.
Yeah, it's a great project, guys, and I think you're going to love to create them again and again and again for different occasions. Like,
Different
even if
themes.
it's a special invitation, maybe even for Mother's Day, if you want to do a different, like, if you want to take your mom on a Hawaii trip or on a trip to the beach or on some sort of adventure, I think this is a great book. And just great ways to capture that. Or wherever it might take you. Like, can you imagine creating like a little Disney book too? Like, oh, this
that's
is
so
cute.
cute.
Or if you're gonna give someone a special gift for their birthday, but it's either gift cards. Like, can you imagine like when you open your book, you write your sentiments, you write photos of them, but then you've got either gift cards on here or money or whatever that is that's going to make them feel extraordinary. Sorry about that, guys. That's Axel. Clearly he's... Oh, you know what? Our pool people might be here. All right. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add some... We're going to turn it upside down. And we're going to bring in some score tape. And we're going to place it on both sides of our book. On the outside flap.
What do you need?
I felt like, I guess this is I have like a million of them. Somewhere.
It's in that cup. Turn the cup around.
Ah,
That
there
one?
you
That's
go.
okay.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
You have your favorites.
I have my favorites. My favorite tools. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift this. And because it's going to be a side page, I do like to add liquid glue. I do, like, if you're taking my mini book class, you're going to notice that I use a lot of liquid glue for books, mainly because it prevents my pages from coming apart. It really helps keep my page together. And so I'm going to zoom in a little bit here.
Zoom.
Because I want you to see this, and I don't want to zoom in too much because I don't want you to lose the perspective of how I have the book. But, so currently I've got the top facing me, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this guy in, and it's going to go right over that score line, okay? So it's almost going to like butt up to that score line. And once it's there, I'm going to go ahead and press on to this, okay? Now remember, liquid glue, just work with me a little bit here. Now, I did see a friend of mine, Izzy. She likes to use a rag just to like press on this so that if there's any extra glue, the rag's picking it up. I don't have a rag with me, but I'm using just a paper towel. And I might have some left over on the other side as well. I'm not as concerned about the other side because I have to still come and cover this side up. Okay, so once we've done that side, so we created this side. Now that's my page there. You see that? Now we're gonna cover this page with another. So it makes it nice and thick, and it has great weight to it. So we're gonna add some score tape.
Zuckerman is watching in the in and out drive-through. So she has got a lot of time because you know how the line's really so long.
Oh,
Sweet.
sucker man. Is the baby craving in and out?
Baby's craving In and Out.
Same thing, we're going to add some liquid glue here. Now you could also use your finger. Problem is that this particular glue is so tacky, so you're going to end up having, so you choose your weapon wisely.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to bring in another sheet. Butt it up against that score line. And ta-da! Beautiful. So we have a full sheet. And then sometimes if you have a cheese, you can run a cheese through it. If you're worried that you have some leftover adhesive, you can just run the cheese through it.
What?
What?
Cheese.
The cheese.
The cheese square.
The cheese square. I'm not gonna trim it. If it's, I don't mind it because it's gonna have so many different layers. It's not even funny. But this one I'm gonna trim just a little bit because I'm off the grid.
Zuckerman said, "If by baby you mean Garrett, yes."
All right, we're doing the second side. Just the same. Sometimes the hardest part about creating mini books is just figuring out the measurements. Once you have the measurements down, then you can just go to town and build and design and create.
So you did all the hard work.
So all the hard work
All
is
the
done.
frustrating parts.
Brittany Taylor says, just got my order of Tanger sugar stock. Yay. And then Mary Lou says, hi everyone, taking a quick break from working home.
Aw, thanks for joining us during your break. All right, so here comes the second sheet. Right over that score line. Line them up and press down. Beautiful. So now we have, it's like hugging you.
Wow.
All right, so these are our side flaps. This is our bottom and our top. Ta-da!
Would you call it an envelope?
Envela-box. It
Envela-box.
is like an envela-box, but we went extra because we're adding pages to it. So, so we went just a little extra. And again, if you have a cheese, these two have a cheese in this little.
Patricia's keeping up. She says, so far so good.
Sweet.
She's making it right along with you.
It's super easy, guys. It's super easy to recreate this book. Like, seriously. All right, now what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create all of our layers, all of our pages, okay? And we can come back with the cheese later. Let's let this glue dry.
And Jenny Joe Tilston says, "Hey Richard, can you share what makes the sugar cubes special? I don't have any. Do I need them?"
Well, I think what's so special about our sugar cubes, so first of all, we're going to use some right now. All right, so we're going to use some of our sugar cubes, but I think what's so different about our sugar cubes is first and foremost the size. They come in a 2 by 2 inch square. Secondly, they are our colors. So we have matching sugar drops, sugar stock, sugar cubes. So I think that's the biggest piece. Like if you have a color palette that you absolutely love, these are just regular dye-based inks. There's nothing other than the fact that they match our cardstock. And they match our sugar drops, because if you're psycho killer crazy crafter like the rest of us, then we want everything to match. We want everything to work well together. Yeah. So that's the reason why we have sugar cubes. But there's no special ink. Our black taffy is a little different. It's not a dye based. It is a special fusion ink. This one is good for us to be able to use with alcohol markers on different surfaces, on different mediums. So it is a specialty ink that we can use. So it's not dye-based. It is a special ink. So that one's the only one that's actually different. In addition to, of course, our white and our buttercream, that vanilla cream that are actual pigment. So those three are different. Well, we have our simple syrup as well. Our simple syrup is like a Versamark pad, kind of like it is just a clear pigment. And since we're having this discussion, so both are white. Okay. Sure. So our white, our powdered sugar, our vanilla cream, our simple syrup are all pigment ink, and then this one's just different and special, and then all the other colors and all the different colors that it comes are just dye based. So that's the difference. It just happens to match all of our beautiful colors.
Coordinating. She said, yeah. Thank you. Yes, I may be a little psycho crazy when it comes to crafting supplies.
Yes. Yeah, that's kind of my thing. So, our colors have to match. For example, we have tangy gum ink.
Patricia says it's a little loud when you are digging in the drawer there.
Really?
No, we didn't realize that.
All right, so we have the tangy gum ink, as well as we have our dazzling pad, but we end up adding the sugar drops into our dazzling pad to turn our dazzling pad into every color that we own. So super cool. Sorry about the noise, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and start adding our layers. So this is a 6-inch panel all the way across, so we know that already. And each one of this, for example, this one is 3 1/4, and then our center one being, I like to use my grit paper as my guide, so 4 1/2 for the most part. So we're gonna go ahead and start with our layers. And in the center layers, I added all the layers in some of our rich blueberry. So I'm going to go ahead and grab some of that rich blueberry. And so we know that it is a 6-inch width. So we're going to cut that at 5 3/4. And now we're gonna come in here, and we decided that this particular one was 3 1/4, so we're gonna go at 3 inches for this bottom panel. And then the second one we said was 4 1/2. So we are gonna go here to 4 1/4. And then this very last top part is 2 inches. So we're gonna go to 1 3/8. Now you typically want to do the same thing for the other side. Okay, so we need 3 additional pieces just like this to go on the back side of that. Okay, so go ahead and grab another sheet of a rich blueberry or whatever color you're using, whatever color palette you're using. And we went right to 5 3/8. Then we started off here with 3 inches. So that should be 2 of those. This one is 4 1/4. That gives us 2 of those. And this last one was 1 3/4. So now we have 2 for the front and the back. And that's kind of how I like to create my mini book. I want to have all my pieces laid out. So I have plenty for the back and the front. Let me zoom out here a little bit. And again, I don't have all the pieces pre-cut for this because the decision that I made to teach this class or all of my free classes was to really do it from scratch so that everybody got to see the entire process, you know, so that you guys can see how I cut the paper, how I decide what my layers are, etc., etc. So I like to do both the entire front and back of what my panels will be, and I'm going to do the same thing for these later, but I still have more panels to cut for this center section, so I'm going to keep cutting. I'm going to set this aside a little bit. I'm going to bring in my paper trimmer just so you can see it. And now my second layer on top of this is going to be sweet blue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my sweet blue and I'm going to come to start my first cut now. It's going to be a 1/4 of an inch inside. So I'm going to cut this at 5 1/2. And so our bottom panel was already designed at 3 inches. So I'm going to go to 2 3/4, and I need 2 of those. Now I should have enough for this one. Here, let's see. This one is at 4 1/4, so I'm going to cut this one down to 4, and I need 2 of them as well. So here's one of them. And this should actually fit right on the top. Did you see that? So we've got one. We just need one more of the 4 1/4. Again, we're going to cut this down to 5 1/2. And it was at 4 inches, actually. Yeah. 4 inches. So we've got 2 of those. We need one more of the smaller strips. But instead of grabbing the biggest piece, I'm going to grab one from the scraps. So I need that at 5 1/2. And we ended up going right there. A little much on that one. 1.5. All right, so we have our 2 strips of 1.5. So here we go. So I know there's so many different layers, but that's kind of what makes our book ultimately thrive here at the end. So I want to make sure I'm grabbing all my scraps because I may need them here in a little bit. We're going to go ahead and now do our powdered sugar layer. So these are going to be 5 1/4. Now you don't have to add this many layers. I love a good weight on my mini book. So that's why I'm adding the amount of layers that I'm adding. But that does not have to be you. You can decide to go 1 layer. You can decide to go no layers. So we need 2 that are at 2.5. And that's going to be our layer right on top of our sweet blue. I believe this was a 4. So now we need 3 3/4. And this one's going to be at 1 1/4. Let's go ahead and build another one. What's so great is that we're doing both the front and the back at the same time. So all we're going to have to do is just stamp and assemble. So we've got all of our center panels created front and back. Now again, you get to decide how many different layers you want on your mini book. I love all the layers. I love the weight on the mini book. So that is totally up to you. That is your decision. Now remember, this panel was 4.5 by 5.5. So we need to start creating our layers for the side panels. So we're going to use some Sour Crush. We're going to use some Sour Crush. And I just love mixing in the blues together because, of course, this is a very, ocean-like experience. So we know that it's a 5.5, so I'm going to go to 5 1/4. It's kind of like a wonky size because the 4 1/4 is going to bring me... so now we're going to go to 4 1/4 because it was a 4.5, if you remember correctly. So we should get all of the panels that we need per sheet. So now we have the front and the back. The front and the back. Got it? Now we want to add a layer of sweet blue. So 1 sheet should do it. Again, that was a 5.5. So we went to the 5 1/4. Now we want to do 5 inches.
Bernice Taylor's asking, what is the size again for the white?
For which one?
I don't know, so I was getting confused.
Both, possibly.
Oh, okay. I'll review the sizes here for you guys in a minute, okay? I'm actually going to go back and give you all 3 sizes for each panel. Okay? And then how many you need per of the, that'll be helpful. So I'll go back and I'll show you what we have. So that was 4 1/4. Now we're going to go 4 inches here. Before we adhere anything, we'll definitely go ahead and review that. So we've got 2, 2, and 2. Now we need the powdered sugar ones. So lots of layers, I know, but that's what I think a mini book is all about, is all of these different layers. Can you bring in my gun?
Which one?
The
Oh, it's the
big
big-
hunker.
Red one?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, got it.
Now this one's gonna be 4 3/4.
Jennifer says, I love these colors.
I love the colors. I love the colors. The layers are absolutely gorgeous. I love the layers though. See? So 3 3/4. 3 3/4. I have 2. Awesome. Thank you. Hey, why did I do that? All right. Here we go. Who's ready for the measurements?
Here we go.
For the very top panel, guys. This very top panel, so the very top flap, you need 2 sheets of the rich blueberry that are 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. So we need 2 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. You then need the coordinating layer that is 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. You need 2 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. Should we be writing this down? All right. So we need 2 of the top panels, 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. You then need 2 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. And then we need 2 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. That's just the very top panel. Okay? Do we get the measurements for that? Now, so you need, these are the top panel. 2 5 3/4 by 1 3/4. 2 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. 2 1 1/4 by 5 1/4. Now we're going to create the measurements for the center panel. Now this is totally personal preference too, guys. You do not need all those layers. That's just RG being crazy. But for the center middle panel, you're going to need 2 sheets that are 5 3/4 by 4 1/4. So let me just keep writing this down. I should have started at the very top. So let's just create. So this is middle, top. Does this help?
I'm sure it does. I was trying to do it as we were going, but it just
It gets a little confusing.
I felt like I was confusing them more than helping, so I was like, so it's good that you're.
This might help if you're like ready to recreate
Yeah.
these. All right, so let's go ahead, and now we're doing the middle section. So we need 2 that are 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. We need 2 that are 4 inches by 5 1/2. So much easier when you have all the measurements, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
We need 2 that are 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. That's the middle section. Now the lower section. We need 2 that are 3 inches by 5 3/4. 2 2 3/4 by 5 1/2. And 2 that are 2 1/2 by 5 1/4. Okay, that is the lower section. Now we're going to do the flaps.
It's a lot of paper.
That is a lot of paper.
I think we just had the sale.
I know, it's a
I
good
was like, man, that's a paper.
Lots of paper and lots of measurements too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, side panels. You need 4 that are 4 1/4 by 5 1/4. 4 of them. We need 4 inches by 5 inches. And we need 4 3 3/4 by 4 3/4. Now remember, these are just the top layers. So let me just bring this guy over. So that we can do a quick review before we start all of the layering and building. Okay, so we have top, middle, lower, side flaps. Okay, side flaps are here. That doesn't include our foundation. The foundation, you need a full 8.5 by 11, and you need 4 pieces that are 5.5 by 4.5. So you're gonna need for the book 1 8.5 by 11, 4 pieces that are 5.5 by 4.5. And that is all the paper you need.
Wow.
Wow.
Got it?
That's all.
That's all. So those are all of our measurements. Those are all of our bells and whistles. Who's ready to start putting this together? Any questions on that?
We can actually add those measurements onto the description, so at the end of the show they can go back.
What we'll also do too is we'll upload it to the event, like of all the pieces that people need. Like in a perfect world, guys, in a perfect world, I would be adding all these measurements to the workshop when you actually sign up for it. But because we're launching them every single week, I literally just designed this on Sunday morning.
Sunday, yeah.
Sunday morning, Saturday morning. Sunday
morning.
Sunday morning.
Saturday, I think it was Saturday.
Was it?
Was it yesterday morning?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I think it was such a busy day, then we photographed it.
Yeah,
Then-
because then
Oh,
you
that's
went
Yeah.
to
true
your.
then.
So I
You're
literally
right,
just
you're
designed this
Sunday
class
morning.
yesterday in the
We don't even know
morning.
what day.
And so it's just
They all
kind of
blend.
like a hurry up, let's choose the file that you're going to give away. And then we have to create all of that on the back end of the website because before you know it, it's Monday again. And so we decided we were going to do this as a way to kind of keep our community engaged and creating and building and sharing and inspired. But it does come with a tremendous amount of work on this end, like the photographs and the links and the website update and the shop and the blah, blah, blah. So there's so many different moving parts. So yeah, in a perfect world, I would be giving you all these measurements. But here's the thing. I'm literally just cutting, creating, building, cutting, creating, building, cutting, creating. So
we
this
will
is
add
the
that.
second time that I go live with the second piece so that I can actually break down the project. So yeah, all that.
Bernice said, "Thank you, and you're awesome."
All right, guys. So let's switch over to that top view. It is now time for us to start the stamping and putting together process. Are we all good on that? Is everybody, was that helpful at all? I know this is probably something you guys don't necessarily need to break down at this particular moment in the class, but I think it might be helpful because there's so many different measurements. Now you can decide to leave one layer out. Like, hey, maybe you don't want to do 3 layers of, maybe you just want to do 2. So you basically turn this sweet blue into a white, and that's 2. You know? Or maybe you just want to do 1. Totally, you have creative license. So you can decide whatever you want to do. I think you're being cheap. if you only do 1. Like, look how cool that looks with all the 3 layers. But that's just me.
Just
That's
more
just me.
dimension, more depth.
More. It's got more weight. It's got more. Like, it actually shows that I'm really trying to make it happen for you guys. Do you know what the cheese is? Because I want to cheese this. I need a cheese. All right. So now what we want to do is I'm going to put together all my panels that are coordinating so that I can actually layer this correctly. So I have all my panels here. These are my side panels.
They said very helpful. Ruby screenshotted the measurements.
We'll definitely make sure that we put a PDF together for you guys because I know that would be helpful. I am somehow missing one of these.
Jeez.
Did I get rid of it by mistake? That's not it. I know I cut it.
What is it?
Another one of these guys. Anyway, it's here somewhere. I know it.
Christine Domino says foundation will be on site, please, with a question mark.
Foundation?
Maybe she's talking about this. The foundation of the book.
You mean, or you mean the measurements that we just did earlier? No, I think this one's too small. Yeah, that's not it. Has to be another one somewhere. Yeah, we can totally write down the measurements, kind of like what we did here. That one's a little bit trickier though because I feel like you either need a graph, like an actual image to show you your score lines, or else people might get confused. But we can definitely work on that. All right, I'm just separating my panels that go to the back. So these are all my back panels. I'm just setting them aside because I'm just gonna work with my, didn't come out, huh? I'll just cut another one. It's gotta be here somewheres. All right, so we're gonna start by adding these layers. First, I'm gonna run the cheese here. Make sure I don't have any like sticky. No, that one's just little. I don't want to have any sticky pieces left over from the glue.
Carrier but says, "Woo, I'm done online teaching today, so I get to watch you make magic."
Welcome, Carrie. All right, guys. So first things first, we're going to start adding all of our layers. Now, I don't add liquid glue to my regular panels. That's because they don't get played with as much as the regular panels would. So there's no need. So I'm going to bring in my layer of rich blueberry. So we just covered, if you're just joining us, guys, we just covered all the measurements for us. We'll work on putting a PDF together, but the only way we can figure that out is we're going to have to add it again to the shop. So even though you've already downloaded or purchased it, you're going to have to, if you want to get this in writing, then you're just going to have to go back to the shop and add it to your cart again. So that you get the updated version of the PDF download that has all the measurements for the class. Because you're adding like a Word, a document that gives them the class details, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll just add all of the measurements to that link.
Okay.
All right, so I'm not doing the white panels because I'm going to stamp on them. I'm only doing my colored layers, okay? So that is our center book panels. I need to create one more of my top panels. And it's a good thing we have these handy dandy measurements here because I know I need to come to 1 1/4 and 5 1/2. No, that's not it. Oh, it's the other one. 5 3/4. It's 1 1/4. Oh yeah, 1 1/4. That's correct. By 5 1/2. That's what I have. Let me see this. By 1/4. Alrighty. All right, so here's our panels. And actually, I was supposed to stamp that before I adhered it. So let's go ahead and start our stamping. I'm going to remove this sheet real quick because I don't want to ruin all my measurements. And I'm going to remove this because it needs to be stamped. All right, so we're going to start off with stamping our center panel. It's the only one that uses the burlap, so you can totally choose not to do this. And you can continue to use the wind waves if you have it. missing the sweet blue. This is probably over the. Yes, ma'am. All right, so let me just grab one more ink. So hold on 1 second, guys. Perfect, thank you. Oh. It's right there.
Where? Right there? Well, see.
All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna add sweet blue. And I'm also gonna add some sour crush. Okay, so just a little bit of both colors. I'm gonna add a little spritz of water. And I'm gonna go ahead and stamp top portion. And I'm gonna do the same thing again to do the bottom.
What does the water do? When you spray
The
it?
water gives it that watercolor look. So you
Otherwise
see
it's
that?
too.
Otherwise it's too clean. And I don't want it to be so clean. I want it to be dirty. Do you see that?
Nice.
So it's got a little bit more of a water feel. And that one goes right down the center of my panel. So let's go ahead and layer that now. Oh, yeah.
You need something? What?
Just printer paper.
Printer paper?
Yes, please. So that's going to go right in that top layer. Okay. We then have the top and the bottom. I'm going to use this to use for the top part. And that's the only time I really use the burlap. I love that way that looks. So if you don't actually have the wind waves, but you do have the burlap, feel free to use the burlap for the rest of the class. Thank you, thank you. I'm gonna put this guy away. I have that bottom sheet there, so hold on. We're gonna go ahead and grab the wind waves. I love this background stamp. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and add sweet blue. And again, we're going to spritz it a little bit with water. And we're going to cover that entire piece, that top panel. It still has the adhesive on there. So let's go ahead and bring them into our layer. Now for this bottom one, we're actually going to tear just some copy paper. And we're going to use it as a masking. we ended up putting it on the wrong side. So I've got some of the black from the packaging. Okay, so again, sweet blue, sour crush, spritz it with water. And this one I want to only do the bottom part. So we're gonna go ahead and bring in that wind wave. And it's super cool because then we just get that bottom layer.
Nice.
It's just like the perfect set. The perfect background stamp for this set.
Mm-hmm.
So check. We've got our 3 panels, our 3 layers. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and grab the sides. So grab 2 of the 4 sides. And we're going to do the same thing. Sweet blue. Some crush. Spritz it. And we're going to do one side at a time, okay? Kind of cattywampus. Notice how I'm going to zoom in here a little bit so that you guys can see what I'm doing. A little bit closer. Okay, so we've got our panel, and what I'm doing is I'm adding that copy paper kind of a little sideways. So when I bring in my waves, I'm only getting partial. You see that? Because don't forget, I'm going to add some journaling. So I'm going to now do the other side. And I want to cover that one piece. So spritz it with a little bit of water. It's going to give me the vibe that I'm looking for.
So pretty. Love it.
Okay. Let's go ahead and close our sugar cubes so that we can add those layers to our book. I'm going to zoom out again.
Trisha said she loves the waves.
I love the waves, yeah.
Wind waves? Is that what it's called?
Wind waves.
Wind waves.
So we're going to start with our, oh wait, that is not. I'm like, why does it look so wide? Because I'm missing my sour crush. So we have our layer of sour crush, sweet blue. Now we're going to come back and add our stamped background. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on the other side.
Cindy Kurt says, beyond grateful for y'all doing this for each of us.
Oh, you're so welcome. We're so excited that we get to spend this time together. And this one's probably one that's involved a little bit more explaining, and there's so many different measurements and layers, but that's part of what we do and part of our own
Challenge.
fun.
Little
Mhm.
challenge. Keeps you sharp.
So beautiful. We've got all of our gorgeous layers. I'm going to come back and add a little bit more adhesive to this one because
It's acting up.
I had taken it off and put it back on. Just want to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I have my waves at the bottom, I have my waves down the sides, I have my waves on the top, and that's why I decided to do the burlap in the center, because I'm actually adding a little 3x3 envelope like I shared with you guys. So that way when my book is closing up, it's just kind of like the perfect little book. But now we have to work on the back side of our book so that it all kind of matches and coincides and does its thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and switch over to the other side, and we're going to do the exact same thing again. Now, I do recommend that we add all of our regular layers first, just so that we are not adding an incorrect layer. So we need the sour crush on the side panels.
Patricia says, I don't have wind waves. I really think Richard's just looking at what I already own and planning his projects around what I need.
Oh my. Well, it's one of those things. As a matter of fact, I was having a conversation with Patricia earlier this morning, via Messenger on I am really a stamper at heart. Like, I'm part of that old school. Like, that's how I was taught. That's kind of where I found my joy in paper crafting was through stamps. And I could never really understand, like, even when, back in the days we would meet scrapbookers, they were so anti-stamps. And I was like, that is so weird. Why are those people so weird? I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand why there was such a hesitation for stamping, because I actually felt like that's real creating. That's real. Like, you actually get to color it and stamp it any color you want, and then you cut it out and you add all these layers. So, in my head, I was just like, what a strange person. And, everybody has their kind of like their passion for any part of the craft. And, about almost 3 years ago, digital files came into my life because really I had no other choice. And so it was just a different way of doing what I did, and it still allowed me to bring paper to life. But stamping just gives me the opportunity for so many different like techniques and like pieces that I love and that I like to recreate and use. And sometimes I don't think of it in such a digital way, even though I love digital files because it gave me an opportunity to do this all over again. I also will gravitate to my stamps because I love to play with ink and paper. And so that's the conversation we were having. Like, some of these techniques, like, I think look so much better with stamps, because if not, then I might as well just grab an image from a magazine or a coloring book and cut it out and paste it on.
Yeah.
I love the actual craft of coloring it and bringing it to life.
Or covering part of it, like you did
Yeah,
here,
or just like masking it, and of course you can probably do all those
Layering.
things digitally, but I love the work of doing it. And I think that's the biggest difference. Is I really love to just play with the inks and play with the paper and play with all of that. So oops, that's a lot of blue. Wrong color. I want to start with my sweet blue first. And just a little bit of spritz it with some water. And so, like, stuff like that, I love. And, I know for a fact that there's ways you can do it digitally. But to me, this is so much fun to see those colors collide.
It's more organic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I know I can do digitally because I can do it digitally. I do it all the time. I design everything on my computer, and so I'm quite familiar with it. But this is fun. Just playing with the inks and adding color.
Digitally. It's kind of a hard word to say.
Digitally.
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 So look how pretty that looks. Like I have the darker tones and the lighter tones and the watermarks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of my vibe.
So pretty.
That's kind of cool. You like flicked it to your hand on accident.
Huh?
What?
What did he do?
Like, I don't know, he picked up the paper and like I guess he held it in a way that like shot out of his hand, but he got it.
Oh.
Skills, man. Skills.
All right, so this one I'm not gonna mask because it's really like my front cover. And it's also gonna have so much like splattering and yummy things. I actually did a dazzling pat with sour pineapple. Because, I love the gold shimmer. Like when you go to the ocean, there's a little bit of a gold shimmer from the sand.
Mm-hmm.
So I added that with sweet pineapple dazzling pat.
Nice.
Now this one, I'm going to tear up a little differently. Now that I'm down to my last resort. It's my last panel. And I'm just going to start by adding a little bit more color. Totally up to you two guys, because I feel like everybody, like maybe you're not designing an under the sea book and you're designing something completely different. And I just want it, this is the very, very back panel, just to give me a cool vibe. So man, did we use wind waves or what?
I know. Adam's a fan too. He loves the wind waves.
I
It's one
love
of
the
his
wind
favorites.
waves, yeah. Just stamps so beautifully, I think.
Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna get the bottom dirty.
Yeah. It's dry. All right, now it's time to add all of our layers. To our book. Did we leave the sour pineapple dazzling pat on the crafting table over there?
I can run and check.
Because you brought this one, right? Yes. But you didn't bring the dazzling. Okay. Did you bring this one or was it already?
I brought
Yeah.
it. I couldn't find the other one.
Here we go. Perfect. So we've got some Dazzling Pat in our Sour Mist, and we also have some Dazzling Pat now in our Sour Pineapple. So fun. I love them. You basically just grab a regular Dazzling Pat bottle, and you add whichever color sugar drop you want on it. And it just turns it into something absolutely extraordinary and amazing. So first things first, we're going to go ahead and splatter this entire back part of our book, okay? So I'm going to start with with some black dye ink. And the reason why I'm going to go ahead and splatter the back is because then I can just keep working on the front. And it's just going to give it more of that nautical vibe. Now we're going to bring in some Dazzling Pat in our Sour Mist. Just adds more to the beach vibes.
Sea spray.
Sea spray. Sea foam.
Love it.
Now I'm going to bring in some of our Sour Pineapple Dazzling Pat. Perfect. So I'm going to zoom in here just so that you guys can see this a little bit closer. And you can kind of see the edge, the various different colors.
Look at that. So pretty.
All right, so now we want to let this guy dry on this side. And we are going to work on our clear acetate sheet.
Oh, yeah.
And I can totally see what parts are dry and what parts are not dry. So I'm going to grab a heat tool. And I want to heat set my plastic. I might be short one of the crabs, but all right, now that I've heat set that plastic, I'm turning it around. Because I'm going to play with some alcohol inks, okay? So we're going to go ahead and grab some greens. And I love that little squishy sound.
Squishy.
Mary Lou is asking, how many drops in the Dazzling Pat of the Sour Pineapple?
You know, I just add, so each one of these guys has a dropper, and there seems to be ink in there already, so I just do one pump, I squeeze up, and whatever's in there. That's how much. And if you want it to be darker, just make it darker. Just add more, and it's not like it's gonna go bad. So see, when you have your turtle on the other side, it looks really cool.
What that reminds me of? Remember when you were a kid or in school and the teacher had to do these projectors and do
Oh yeah, that's what it
math
reminds
problems
me of
on there?
too. And they use those markers.
So you could watch them overhead.
For those of you who are coloring experts, don't watch. You can color any way you want, guys, okay? You know how when you have that squeaky shoe that you're like, why is this thing so squeaky? So cool because alcohol ink just kind of moves around. And don't worry, you don't have to stay within the lines because I'm cutting it all out. I had to. All right, so ultimately you want to let that dry on there. Is it super loud for you guys? If you guys could hear the ink pads moving around, I can only imagine.
Yes, they can hear the whole thing. Crisp.
Crisp.
So it's kind of satisfying, actually.
It reminds me of like when they make the balloon animals, you know. And
Oh
those, like,
yeah,
squeaky
that's what it
noises.
reminds me of. You're right. I'm having too much fun, apparently. Sorry, guys, if that's messing with your mojo. I actually enjoy it. I might go again.
Ruby said, musical tablet you have.
All right, so that is what it looks like on the other side. You can also heat set it. It's okay, nothing's gonna happen to it as it catches on fire because of the alcohol. That'd be so cool.
Go viral.
All right, I know you was doing this class and then it caught on fire. And okay, so that's kind of what we've got going on. So don't worry, guys. They're all going to be cut out, and then we're actually adhering them with glitter. So there's a method to my madness.
Adhering them with.
Glitter. Glue glitter.
Oh.
I'm adding glitter to the glue, yeah. All right. So by now, this guy should be dry. Yeah. And it's time for us. Oh, I need to zoom you guys out.
Too close. Much better.
All right, how was that, Squishy?
They're saying it's funny. It sounds good.
Was it too squishy?
Too squishy.
All right, I'm going to grab my scissors. I love the look that the acetate sheet gives these, especially with the alcohol markers, because I think it just feels more under the sea-ish.
Jennifer Milo Shook says, I love a purple octopus.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stamp a couple onto the actual covers of our project here. But how was that? Other than squishy. You know what's so crazy is I really need a white bottom.
To cut.
Hmm?
Do you need help cutting?
Yeah, do you guys want to cut? Plastic pieces?
Do you have enough scissors for us? Oh, yes, we do.
David, you know you want to cut, David. You love
Now,
turtles.
it gets a little, it's a little bit harder to see because our
my
blades
gosh.
are black. So if you have something white underneath it, it actually helps sometimes.
You're like, wait, never mind, we don't want to cut.
The coloring was so much more fun.
You missed the coloring.
Squeaking and making funny noises.
Squeaky, squeaky, inky.
It's a yeah, it's dry. Oh, it is hard to see.
Yeah, just because the blade's black.
You want these better? Or you done?
Okay.
She's like, it's okay, I've made sushi.
Just okay. Wow.
Slice my fish.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, I was gonna say, please tell me you're doing the octopus because I am not doing that thing.
Yeah.
That's probably a hard one to cut.
He likes cutting, so.
And have you ever cut acetate sheet? Because it just glides. It's like not difficult to do at all. But you have to be careful because it just glides. You might end up
cut your fish.
decapitating your images. So we basically want to cut out all of our stamped images so that we can use as embellishments. I don't know. Maybe this was too technique-y. I'm starting to feel like maybe it was too technique-y for everybody.
Technique-y?
Technique-y, maybe
What
not.
kind of word is that?
He makes his own words.
I make my own.
Technique.
Maybe not as like, you know, because we do have some beginners on here. I do apologize. We do have classes that are not as technique-y.
I'm saying this requires a lot of finesse.
It requires a lot of thinking. And, it, you know, especially if you're like new, you're like, what the heck?
It's a little overwhelming.
Warning, psycho killer class.
I know, I should have said this one's a little bit
Some
more
results, though.
intense.
Yes, but the results are awesome.
I know, it's so funny. I used to always laugh at when I would teach classes at CHA. They ask us to just say if it's for a more advanced crafter or a beginning crafter. But I always thought, like, well, you know what? It's for any crafter. Like, yes, it might be more, I guess, basically what you're saying, are there more things to be learned in the class, or is it super easy, just cut and paste? Because I guess that's the difference. I don't measure, you know, I feel like every class should have value, learning value.
I wouldn't say that this one's a little like advanced or medium.
It's definitely extra, I suppose.
I can see your point in it, though. You know?
Yeah, because if you just like, well, I want to go learn to take this class, I mean, when you say advanced, it's not like you have to go through paper cutting 101 before you can get to...
Like you have to hold the scissors in a certain way and do a technique or something.
Yeah, like I think anybody can learn anything, even if you've never done it.
I feel like I've said that before. Are you just copying me?
What?
Well, I suppose if it's a new crafter, they won't know like what are dyes or how to use certain tools, I guess, because they've never been exposed to it. I don't know.
I suppose.
I mean, I'm still learning.
Just because you know it all. I'm just kidding.
Can you give me the chunky?
The chunky.
The chunky
Oh.
glitter?
Okay.
Por favor.
Do you want to finish cutting this one then while I go
Yeah.
get you that?
Thank you.
He's so crabby.
Yeah.
He's so crabby. Remember that place?
Mm.
crab?
No.
What is it
That's
called?
from SpongeBob.
No,
The Angry Crab is from
restaurant.
SpongeBob.
The restaurant. There's a restaurant called the Angry Crab. Isn't that where we went and we had the trifecta?
Oh.
What was that one?
The Krusty Krab?
Oh,
No,
the
I'm not thinking
Krusty
of the
Krab.
Krusty Krab. I'm thinking about the restaurant we went and had the seafood
What's the restaurant that has the shrimp in
trifecta
there?
that we liked.
Oh, something crab.
Angry Crab.
Angry crab?
Right?
No.
Yeah.
It's the Angry
Yeah.
Crab. See, you're making
Angry-
me second guess myself.
Yes, angry crab.
I wasn't thinking of the Krusty Krab.
That's SpongeBob.
Yeah, that's SpongeBob.
There's a real restaurant called the Krusty Krab.
Is there?
We've been there.
Oh, I guess you're right. Somewhere. Where?
I don't remember
California?
where, somewhere in California, and
Oh.
it's like next to like water and there's boats.
Krusty Krab.
Oh, yes. I remember now. But no, where we went was.
They had the shrimp
it was the
boils
angry crab.
and. Patricia said you're never too techniquey. Patricia, you're advanced though.
All right, guys. So we've got all of our amazing under the sea images stamped, colored, squeakied, and now cut out. Okay, so now it's time for a breakdown. Oh, sorry.
What? Okay.
Now it's time to start embellishing our book. Okay? Make sure that you leave yourself room. Has it been 2 hours already, guys? So sorry. Stay with me. Don't go.
Wow.
Wow.
You're having so much
Time
fun.
flies when you're having fun. I'm not even halfway done.
What?
Just kidding.
Get out of here.
David's looking at me like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna.
Looks
Who
like
did that?
your son's been doing?
Drawing you.
It's been 2 hours.
You gotta
Okay, guys,
show
you have to
that.
see this. My son's been sitting there like, it's been 2 hours. Look what I look.
He was doodling.
First of all, it looks like Joe, not me. And
You drew
second
your
of all,
apron and everything. Oh, your tattoo. Wow.
oh
So much
lordy.
detail.
Thanks, David. Are you trying to say I'm long-winded? All right, guys, I'll try to speed it up. Golly, can never get that thing. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a couple of different pieces of twine. Just with a little bit of tape. To the sides. Again, I'm going for that nautical look.
Jennifer Milo Shook says lots of cool techniques we can use on other projects too.
Oh yeah, that's I think always the biggest benefit is not necessarily
Yeah, just take-
recreating this class, but taking what you've learned and applying it to other projects. Like that's the gift right there. And again, I have my little 3x3 envelope that's gonna go right on there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go hot and I'm gonna grab what? I'm gonna go ahead and grab my liquid glue, and I'm gonna start with my Toidle,
What's this?
and I'm gonna add the glue on the side that has the alcohol ink, okay? Because you'll notice that not every part is actually colored in. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some glitter to that glue so that when that glue dries, it's sparkly underneath my,
Ooh, fancy.
it's sparkly right underneath my turtle. So you just press on it and you hold it.
You wait for like a minute.
Wait 35 minutes
Wow.
and then you can just
For you, it's 3 hours. I'm just kidding.
Okay, so pretty much you let that dry. So cool, right? I love it. I love it. Now I'm going to grab, I might do this one a little different than I did the first one just because I already have one of those books. Jeez.
Did you use the seahorse on the one? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to put the seahorse on the other side. I love the seahorse and the turtle in this set. I love the octopus the best, of course, but just these two guys are super cool. And you hold.
And Patricia comments, remember, if you like to use digital files, you can print this on a laser printer on the acetate sheet.
There you go.
There you go. Getting fancy with it. Getting digitalized.
Patricia's digitalizing us.
She's a
Just say
diva.
that you weren't gonna need the thing that holds the stamps pretty soon.
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever.
Pretty
It's
much.
already here.
It's already here.
Oh, the digital.
It's moving away from the organic way. It's moving
Mhm.
more toward the digital.
Yeah,
way.
I do love my digifiles, but I love to use them old school. Like, you know, I just print them out, I color them, and I cut them out, and I use them like they were stamps. I don't necessarily resize them or like cut them out into pieces. But that's just me. You guys
Do you?
do you. We just designed them for your creative enjoyment. So create away. Okay, so I've added my little fishies here. I'm gonna bring in my crabs. I'm adding the glitter to that glue. Now this one you could have stamped before you adhered it, but RG had a brain fart, mainly because we're completely out of time and I'm afraid of the dark, so I'm afraid you guys are gonna leave me by myself. So we've added our starfish. So we're actually going to try to go old school with that sentiment. Let's cast away. And I just had a round here somewhere.
Around this.
Let's cast away. So cute, right guys? Our book is coming together. It still needs to be, you know, all the other bells and whistles. But we definitely want to come back and add some of the stamping onto this section. Now again, I'm not looking for Psycho Killer stamping because it's really more of a background piece than it is a can you give me a sheet of that line paper, please? Thank you. You're the bestest. Hold that there for a minute. Awesome. Ooh. Well, I'm going to use that again for glitter, but yeah. All right. So I'm just bringing a little bit of a masking because I'm going to stamp my, let's see here. I think I'm going to do the turtle again and the octopus for sure. I think they're so cool. So I'm just going to stamp it. It's got so many different layers of cardstock that you don't even have to worry about what's underneath or on the other side. And of course you can decide to stamp this prior to, you know, bringing it into your sheet. Perfect. Now we're going to stamp our turtle. So when I say I like to stamp, I'm not kidding. Now, I would prefer to stamp with rubber, real rubber, and not clear acrylic. But that's just me. I'm old school. Old school like the old school. All right, those are done, cleared out. Now we can come back and add a little bit of color to those if we want.
I wonder if Patricia's keeping up.
I'm sure she
You
is.
think so?
I think her book was done before we even started. Whoa. That's Axel saying hello. Now I'm using a lighter purple because this is not the acetate sheet and I won't be able to move color as easy as I could on the acetate sheet.
And Patricia said it was not done before we started, and yes, I'm keeping up. Good job, girl. Nice.
What is it?
Hmm?
What's going on out there?
Something with the pool.
Oh, is the guy here?
Yeah.
Alright, so there's our octopus. Now we're going to add a little bit of color to our turtle.
Remember when we went to see the sea turtles?
Yeah, that
They
was
were
so cool.
pretty in Hawaii. It's quite a little drive to go find them.
Mm-hmm. And even then we were like, oh, I don't think we're going to see anything. And then all of a sudden, they're just hanging out. All right, there is our turtle. All right, so now we've got the back, but we do have a few of these guys that we want to add. And this guy is going to be eating the starfish. This is vicious. Just going to get a little strip of tape there for some of that glue. same thing on the other side. Now the good news is this side has already been like splattered. And we're just adding the finishing little touches to oops. Our fish is coming off on the other side. We'll have to fix that. We are almost at the end of our rope here.
With the tape, really?
Yeah.
No.
All right, we're gonna grab this fishy because clearly it wants to move. I'm gonna just add it to that space. Alright, we've got a little bit of a mess here from that fishy, but we are going to fix that. That fish is a stubborn one. Came off again.
Dry.
This is the one shell cut, turned into sushi.
What? I didn't even cut those. I cut the turtle.
Oh, that's right. All right, so here we've got our fishies. Now, if you decided to, you can always come back and add some of the stamping to the front as well. I think it would look cool if you did. Similar to how we did earlier. And we still have to just kind of splatter the front here. And add our titles and our belly band. Can totally come back. Let me get another one of those.
What?
Line papers, David. Let's make sure. Fish, yeah.
That's right.
Go ahead. I'm just gonna add one more little fishy on the side here. Just adds a little extra. I've got some glue from the fish that is now gone. And we've got color on this one. So you could either decide to add another fish. Technically, you're going to have photos on there. So you don't have to do a whole lot. Pool guys here.
Mm-hmm.
Sweet. All right, so we've got our fishies. Let's go ahead and add our splattering. Now, I also recommend that you cover your acetate sheet because obviously the acetate's not going to want to dry on the splatter. So just so that you're not
Makes sense.
dealing with a little bit of an inkier mess. Now we're going to add some of our sour mist. Some sour pineapple.
A little bit of sunshine.
A little bit of that gold in there.
I want to go to the beach now.
I'll settle for a fish sandwich.
Fish and chips.
Fish and chips.
Oh my god, that sounds so good.
Perfect. Now you can remove the sheets protectors. Looks so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got all these fun little bells and whistles. Now we have a couple of these left over from, you know, the die that we have that cuts out the little, all the circle strips, the strip of circles. So these are left over, and I'm just gonna punch a hole right on the inside because we're gonna use these to create our little string closure. We need 2 little brads. I like to place my scissors in between the brad before I open the brad, so that gives me the space to put, I'm gonna zoom in here so you can see that. It gives me the space to add the string. Okay, do you see that? So that way when my brad is opened, there's still a little bit of give. So I'm gonna go ahead and I just basically place my scissors here. You're not cutting it. And then you place your brad and you open your brad with the scissors there so that your string wraps around the brad. Hopefully that makes sense. Makes sense to me. And now I'm just gonna add my foam squares.
You do the bubbles still.
Yeah.
Linda Hicks joined. She said her and her she's late, but her and her husband were putting together a patio set and doing yard work. But welcome.
So cool.
Everybody's got little home projects
Yeah.
they're getting
All right.
done.
So see, now that gives me enough space
Mm-hmm.
to tie my string around my brad versus no space. All right, so that's pretty much done on that side. I do like to go back and burn my acetate a little bit, okay? It just kind of molds it into my project, and it gives it just a little bit of texture. See that? Did you guys see that? It's probably hard to see. It also helps fuse in. You can kind of see that molding, shaping, building. This one's still alive.
Trying to get away.
Just enough to where it adds some life. See that?
It's not so like flat.
Yeah, so that it's not perfectly flat, but it's got a little bit of that wave in my plastic. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to attack that stubborn fish. It also helps dry the glue underneath it, which is great. So birdie. Oops, sorry, zoomed out. Zoomed in. All right, so cool. So our book is pretty much done. We have to add our title and our belly band. So to do our belly band, we just need a 2-inch strip of some rich blueberry. Of course, you can choose whatever color you prefer, but I'm gonna do rich blueberry. Just a 2-inch strip of rich blueberry. 2 by 11. Oh, and I'm also going to need a small strip of powdered sugar. I'm going to go 2.5 by 3.5. I think that's about right. Yeah. So we're going to bring our book in. And using your score tool, I'm just going to go ahead and create that crease. So just bring down that flap. This one doesn't necessarily have any measurements because I just go like this. I don't like it to be overly snugged. I just want it to be able to wrap around my project. Okay. So just a small 1/4 of an inch strip of your red tape or your score tape will do. So that's our belly band. And we're going to go ahead and add a strip of kind of adheres it together, just some foam tape. Now I am going to come back with my twine, and again I'm looking for that nautical vibe, so I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. And you can add like different titles. I know this was a very long class, guys, so I do apologize for taking forever, but I want to make sure that you guys capture all the various different measurements. I want to make sure that you guys can recreate this. Once you have all your measurements down, of course you can just cut all the pieces and go to town. We added our twine. Now we want to add our octopus. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to add glue to the back of our octopus here. Some chunky glitter or whatever glitter you prefer. You can do it on here. And I'm going to bring up this bow. Look how cool that looks.
Mm-hmm. Got his legs all tangled up in the bow.
Yeah.
Ruby loves the book, and she said long is good because of the details.
Yeah, there's so many different details to this book. Now, you do have different sentiment options that you could go back and add. I'm going to do that because I want to finish the book at 100%. So maybe not the birthday one, but Less Castaway would be a good one. And this one doesn't fit on there. Yeah, so I'll make it bigger. Let's Castaway. We can add that to the inside of the book, which I did. And Adventure Awaits, which is the name of our book and our stamp set. So last couple of pieces, guys. We'll make sure the next Monday's class is a lot harder than this one. Not that this class is hard. It's not hard. It's just time consuming. Mm-hmm. Takes a little minute. I'm going to add some juice to that. And a little bit of black because everything's already been splattered just on the outside of that. There's going to be some on my octopus that I'm going to wipe off here because it won't stay. So we're going to let that dry. Move that guy out of the way. Just make sure him up. Perfect. And then we're just gonna make sure this guy's dry. Make sure he's got his little, burn him a little bit, add a little bit more wave. Calamari. Smells like it too. Alright, last two pieces here. We're going to start with the Adventure Awaits.
Jody Miller says, what a fun class. Thank you for all the inspiration.
Thanks, guys, for joining us. Thanks for sticking around.
Ronnie Jan says, love this book. Thank you very much. Jennifer Milo Shock says, very grateful you share your time and expertise.
I know.
Yeah.
It smells like calamari.
Funny.
Just burnt the octopus.
Oh, you burnt the
It's an Amy Kilmore.
Oh.
All right, Adventure Awaits book. So cool. And then you just kind of, we're going to slide this guy off. And we're going to add our sentiments over here to this guy. Let's cast away.
Super cute book.
Yeah.
Or
Yes, thank-
envela-box.
Embellishing.
Envela-box.
super cute. So again, you can decide where you want everything to fit. So I'm gonna add the let's. On my previous book, I did the castaway on the other side. So I'm gonna do that because it's all part of the same story. Let's get away. So let's cast away. Let's get away. And I love it. What do you guys think?
Beautiful. It's ready for our next trip.
No, this one. Oh, this one's ready for the next trip.
For the next trip.
This one has just a little bit of that adhesive left on the top. So I just want to make sure it's gone. But our book is done. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this Psycho Killer class. Who would have thought? Let me just kind of show you real quick the finished one with the photographs.
On that one you added pearls too.
Oh yeah, I added a few pearls just for the extra added elements. But again, totally up to you.
Looks like little bubbles.
Yeah, you've got creative license, so you guys can go to town and just make it your own. Oh, and you know what I also did to the original? Look, I stamped the waves
Oh, on the back.
on the back. So that would have probably been cool too. Good idea, Richard.
Well, there's two versions. There you go.
But you guys were rushing me, so. There we go.
Both look
Oh, and I
great.
also had a different layer of color cards. So whoever this person is, they got cheated because
They're both beautiful.
I had a different
Oh, you
layer.
added
So
the
cute.
I added the
tangy
layer.
gum.
So there you can see them side by side, the difference. Just the powdered sugar or the powdered sugar and the tangy gum layers.
They're both
So I'm like, why does
gorgeous.
this seem a little
Like you have
weird?
a lot
What is
more
it
of the darker
missing?
blue.
Yeah.
The rich
It's
blueberry.
missing the wave in the background, but I think it would look so cool with it. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you had fun recreating this super long class, but I definitely think it's a fun one for you to be able to recreate and just perfect it to your style, to your design. I'm actually going to create a few more, but different themes. Like I think for Mother's Day, they would be great so that I can give one to Gabby, I can give one to Shell, I can give one to my mom, and just pictures with all their children or just pictures of them, what they were like before they had children, just so they can see the before and
Scuba
after.
diving.
Scuba diving. So just fun little books to be able to have and to be able to capture. Don't forget, guys, that we are going to give away a few bottles of Dazzling Pat. If you follow us on Instagram, make sure that you tag a friend on the video share for this post that we had yesterday. We posted it yesterday. Make sure you tag a friend for your chance to win, as well as on Facebook. We're trying to grow our community. We're trying to build our community. So the more that you can get the word out, the more that you can share it with your crafty friends, the more we'll be able to bring to you guys again and again and again and again. Hopefully not a 3-hour long class, but I hope you got your money's worth. And thanks again for joining us, guys. I hope you have a beautiful, blessed week ahead. Remember, if you are new and you're just watching this, you can always download the free digital file to this class by visiting rgavenue.com. It's under shop, under events, and you'll be able to find all the details there. Remember to subscribe to our channel, to share this video, and to keep making amazing happen. We will see you guys again next time. Adios.